Welcome back to edition 2 of the KnowledgeBombs InfoLetter on LinkedIn. My name is Jared A. Smith, and in this audio version, I want you to be able to consume this content on the go, and I understand that not everybody can sit down and read for 5 minutes or 25 minutes. So therefore, I want to meet you where you're at, running fast and doing whatever you do in the world. So I'm going to read this to you, and you can listen to my slow Texas drawl read what I wrote in the second edition of the newsletter series. So the title is Pre-Flight Checks. Do you have the checklist? It's back to the basics. And I'm using this lightning bolt as the thumbnail for this post because I'm really challenging the contrarian perspective to military transition. If you're interested in the status quo and doing like everybody else has done it before you, this may not be the place for you. However, you can probably expect similar results from those that have gone before you, and everyone I've talked to, nobody said transition was easy. So I'm not claiming it's going to be easy, but I am stating the fact that I'm most likely a little further ahead of it than you are, and there's a lot of mistakes I made in the years leading up to it that I don't want you to make either. So we're aggregating the information here, putting in a structure that will resonate with you all, and then prompting action, because that's where the motivation comes from. So let's get into it. Welcome back. Greetings from the flight line. How's your month moving along? We're almost a quarter of the way through the year. Are you on track to meet your goals? Like you, I've been busy. Made it to Texas, and St. Patrick's Day flew right by as I was settling into a new routine, and it was spring break for us here in the Houston region. Read crazy town in our household. My oldest daughter's 12th birthday was spent in green too. She loves Leprechaun's Day. The green iced strawberry cake she made to celebrate was delicious too. Speaking of green, I'm planting a garden plot now because all the signs I'm getting say we're collectively going to experience much higher food prices with less choices in the stores and a supply shock that few anticipate. Because of that, I can't control what people do or don't spend for my guidance services, from your time to your currency. Therefore, I must control the source of my family's food supplies more than we have in the past. A garden alleviates my concerns about supply chains and the prices that are spiraling out of control, allowing me to focus on my efforts to change the world and invite you along for the ride to liberty with me. Next section, pre-flight context. There's a war front few acknowledge until they're a military family already in the battle. And getting your liberty back during transition is a battle. I guarantee that. The problem with all the, quote, free, close quote, resources floating around in this transition arena is that it's an unstructured information blizzard, referred to in the military literature as the fog of war. And the vast majority of us don't know what we don't know about transition, assuming it's for later and or that's not our mission. And we don't know because we have never gone through it. Our only introduction to it is basically those that have transitioned out around us. And my guess is few asked those that were leaving about how it was going. That's irrelevant. Today we can change. Where's the readiness in that approach, too? Of course not. That's a bad way to go about something that we know is ahead, the military transition. But don't forget, like I said on my last article, in my last InfoLetter, the military doesn't transition. People do. And that perspective is antithetical to how we are trained and how we're told to lead. We plan. We are by nature planners, and the fact that we are not applying the same planning skill sets to the Armed Forces family, it fascinates me. So I began challenging the status quo over a year ago and began taking an entrepreneurial approach to this transition topic because the status quo isn't working, or so I hear anyways. I wouldn't know directly because I didn't take the status quo path down the transition muddy dirt road. I looked at it and said, no thanks. And there's a picture of a muddy dirt road here in the article for you to see as well. But I do see it in action with, quote, transitioning military officer, close quote, on LinkedIn profile headlines, the, quote, open to work, close quote, tags on profile pictures, and the desperate pleas for jobs and posts asking about certificates and credentials that are in demand, military-friendly employers, and all the other status quo advice taken from the free offerings. I hear it in the conversations with my peers who still believe it's not time for them or their spouses to think about separation or retirement. I hear it from those who have gone before me wishing they had done it differently. And they're all mostly still living, guiding, and advising inside that box. And there's no liberty inside the box the system put us in. It's up to you and you alone to get out of it. They won't encourage you to get out either. You'll stay trapped inside beyond the rank, weapons platform, and service branch too, if not truly ready and planning from the earliest days in service to get out of it. In fact, the sooner you're out of that box, the better for your service life as well. And when I say inside, I'm referring to your mind. Luckily, there is another way. It begins with this KnowledgeBombs InfoLetter series. I built the transformation superhighway to liberty and freedom beyond uniform service for service members and spouses alike. And it's actually not just a highway, but a runway to take off from and fly over that transition mountain where the battles are raging. Not to just navigate it by driving slowly through the mountain range of valley troughs and sky-high peaks and hitting the mines and meeting the snipers that await, but to bypass all that challenge and heartache fast and efficiently. Thoughts on jobs. For the job seekers in transition and those who are unsatisfied in their current job role after separation or retirement, consider this. When thinking about a full-time job, it is a contract to purchase and provide abilities for a fixed period of time. It's like having one customer requiring you to spend 40-plus hours per week on their projects only and nobody else's. If they have enough work, that's fine. But there are some challenges with this approach to work and job, and I'll list some bullets out here, 5 of them. 1, if you, as an employee, have only one customer, the business that employs you, doesn't that put you at a lot of risk? How scary is that? It should be dreadfully scary, even if they've paid you every 2 weeks for years and have paid you very well, too. 2, what if you consider yourself as a business of one and you have only one customer buying your product or service? All the revenue you have coming in from that one person or entity is entirely dependent upon them being able to send you payment for your work, effort, or time. And it depends on nothing bad happening from your side of the contract too, such as injury, legal problems, household affairs, examples given. 3, so you're likely one catastrophe away from being without an income source if you don't spread that risk out to other customers, other work, and something else besides your one source of income you have or are seeking. 4, this way, if that primary source falls off or slows down, you've got other sources ready to develop into more work, spreading around the risk that's inherent in any economy. And lastly, don't forget about inflation, chewing away the purchasing power of the paychecks you're getting. Is it still maintaining pace with price increases? Most are not, especially in government service at all levels. So, if frustrated with the job hunt, understand that you've been conditioned and trained to trade away your time for dollars, to exchange your knowledge, skills, and abilities for a paycheck. And seeking a single paycheck is extremely risky today. Why not start doing something else while job seeking for that single source of income? But guess what? Work doesn't have to be that way. You don't have to trade away a certain amount of your life for a fixed amount of pay, saving it in financial services vehicles managed by people you don't know, probably wouldn't like, and have no reason to trust. It's said that people do business with people they know, like, and trust. Then I think about retirement savings accounts and wonder about that approach to business, especially as it pertains to our life savings and store of previous paychecks, representing our time and energy from those years, even decades of efforts. I'm now convinced that in most all situations, there's no set price for whatever it is that anyone does. It's all flexible and variable and subjective. Price itself is subjective. All value is subjective and is in the eye of the receiver in a market of buyers and sellers for goods and services. It comes down to valuing time more than savings, or savings more than time. Because at its very core, savings is simply stored energy from spending time using your abilities that you were then compensated for. Once it's understood as a principle that there is no set amount of pay that you can make in an hour, all of a sudden the mind shifts away from the indoctrination we've been given and box we've let be built around us throughout our lives to a mindset of freedom to begin thinking about who we are and what we can do differently with our time. If success, wealth, and freedom are all defined by how much control we have over our time, then we must maximize everything we do to create more time by thinking differently about who we are and what we do. Me, personally, I seek to earn more in order to buy more time, and buy time from others in several ways. First, increase the charge for what I do. The more people who come to me, the more I can earn for it. I may not, but I have the choice to charge more. That's the point. The second way I buy time is to recruit others to do things in my business that I don't enjoy doing or that I'm not good at doing. And lastly, the third way to buy time is to hire out household chores I hate doing to others who love that kind of work, such as mowing the grass, housekeeping, bookkeeping for expenditures, examples given. When companies hire you, they're not hiring your time. They're hiring your knowledge, skills, and abilities for a fixed period of time which they control. And you exchange that for a fee. That fee is a paycheck that's not keeping up with price increases or shielding you from tax liability. You'd think that if you increase your knowledge, skills, and abilities, then you ought to be able to increase your price. But usually, when selling your services to an employer, you're selling at a discount in a very crowded marketplace. And they have little incentive to increase their cost for you because there are 1,000 others begging for a paycheck. The owner or corporation is saying, I'm going to provide the structure, the workspace and tools, and market the services and products and bring it to you. The employee, the work. And it's a single source of work that most are completely depending upon. Are you? Are you looking for all that to alleviate your household financial pains? And hence the problem. However you derive your income, you are solving a problem for someone. Every minute that problem isn't solved, it becomes more costly to those with the problem. Do you want the problem to fester and delay being solved until later, keeping you from getting on with your life and doing what you want to do with your time in either work or play? The more time you can control in your own life, the wealthier you are. The bigger the problems you can alleviate, the more you'll be paid. The faster you can alleviate them, the more you'll be compensated, not only in pay, but in time too. Big problems that can be solved quickly bring lots of cash flow to the opportunity finders, commonly referred to as problem solvers. It's all about the time. So that leads us to the next section on time. Think of time this way. Time is the only renewable, non-replenishable resource we have every single day. We all get the same 24 hours every morning. We're granted another breath. Jeff Bezos gets the same amount as Warren Buffett, who both get the same as you and me. And once those 1,440 minutes are used up each day, they're gone forever. So how we spend our time is extremely important. A man or woman who can spend 100% of their time exactly how they choose to spend it, at work or at leisure, for the circles I run in, is a very wealthy person. Consider this old fable that says, quote, why should I pay you $1,000 for something that took you 15 minutes to fix? And the answer is, well, it took me X amount of years, say 1 year, 5, 10, or 25 years, to figure out how to fix this problem in 15 minutes. You're not paying for the quarter hour. You're paying for my imagination, knowledge, and experience resulting from the skills and abilities congregated over 1, 5, 15, or 25 years applied to your unique, specific, and individual problem. And there are no solutions, only trade-offs to weigh in solving your predicament. There's no truth to, if you can do it quickly, it isn't valuable. That's crazy. When I have a problem, I want good options to alleviate it and fast. Do you? Or do you want to wait weeks or months for a solution or try to figure it out on your own? But let's rein this back in for now. We've got to get back to the basics, especially in this new environment, before fully engaging this topic on time in a future post. The hierarchy of needs. My wife and I have primarily purchased the bulk of our groceries for years. Jenny would maintain a hobby garden with some fresh fruits and vegetables, but it wouldn't sustain us for any lengthy period of time. I worked for a paycheck, and Jenny traded that pay for groceries at the store. The supply chains always provided for our subsistence, and prices maintained their stability for the most part. We were dependent upon grocers and the supply chains extending around the globe to bring us fruits and vegetables year-round. This is a new environment, though. Prices for everything are skyrocketing with no end in sight. I owe a monthly payment on a mortgage for a 1.5 acre plot of land along the Texas Gulf Coast, too. I know for certain I can get food growing out of the ground in my backyard, and probabilities tell me I'm best off putting some time and attention to sustaining my family with the sweat off my brow right in my backyard, so I can ensure the basics are covered and allow me to stay at the top of Maslow's hierarchies of needs. And there's a picture in the publication here for you to reference if you like. Otherwise, just Google it, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Are you thinking about your family food supply today? If so, why? If not, how come? This is a highly necessary pre-flight check to ensure the 870 Liberty Seekers who subscribe to this first release of the series are ready for flight, so we don't crash land unexpectedly or go into a tailspin and not know how to recover. You can expect much more going forward, and why I believe this to be the most critical and crucial information for the Armed Forces family and the military veteran community right now. We live in an unforgiving world. You all know that already, but I feel as though it's necessary to state it explicitly, especially now. You see, in the Department of Defense, we are conditioned to become dependent. I now call it the Department of Dependence, for income, for security, for work, being told what to do, when to do it, and for how long, for much of our lives. We're told to hurry up and wait. We're told to not value time. The bureaucracy doesn't value our time, and then we begin to not value it either. And we carry that beyond the bureaucracy into society and get crushed there in the reality of today's new world. What we're doing here is establishing a community and culture of independence. Yes, defiance of dependence. To free us from the box we're inadvertently trapped in, because there's no liberty in that. From the earliest days in uniformed service, the service member's mindset is molded to please the collective at the expense of their individualism. That results in a suppression of ingenuity, which restricts imagination. And in imagination is where the trade-offs to solutions for hard problems are found. Just look around. How have we collectively been doing transition for 30 years or more? Are those entrenched solutions really working? You see, I realized in the spring of 2020, after a unique set of circumstances and experiences led me to a light bulb moment where I realized we've got transition all backwards. That thought led to this more recently, we've got military service all backwards too. Military transition is a terrible name for it. The military doesn't transition, people do. And it's actually a transformation that's required for service members and military spouses who aren't married to the military, by the way. We have transition all backwards because transition isn't something to be started later. This transition thing is really a family readiness discussion for deployment workup cycles, for every single deployment and mission from the earliest days in service. For the service member, their spouse is applicable, and their family, immediate and extended. Beyond having the necessary foodstuffs to sustain our energy levels and remain clear-headed, what about other important aspects of readiness? Whole health and well-being, the sense of self and why we get up to do what we do every day in service to the nation, not the military. There's a difference. Think on it. Readiness for life is the goal, and most are sorely unprepared, it seems. Tragically, 4 Marine aviators were lost in another MV-22B crash. Were those service members truly ready for that? I doubt it, based on the statistics and studies I've stumbled across from the last 5 years. I highly doubt it, unfortunately. And it doesn't have to be that way. But the systems they were indoctrinated in led them all to believe they were prepared for tragedy and that their family would be taken care of in the event that they didn't come home. Unfortunately, my gut tells me they were not, especially if any of them had immediate family. My prayers go out to them. My point is this: if us service members are truly deployment ready, then we're by default transition ready too. The Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States of America. It's not military service either. It's service to the nation, to the citizenry, we the people. I've recently revisited the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. These two documents are like a hand and a glove. You're best not doing hard labor without gloves, as you'll wear out your hands. The Constitution is the glove that protects the hand's liberty to do as it pleases in pursuit of life, liberty, and happiness, whatever that means to you. The hand in this analogy represents the Declaration of Independence. These two writings are important for navigating our upcoming flight. They're the first on the pre-flight checklist. Get your copy from the Cato Institute on Amazon, and a link is in the article, but you can find it for about $8 on Amazon. I've added these important documents to the Liberty Accelerator and KnowledgeBombs discussion because I took the oath of office for commissioned military officers 5 times, and only recently did I really revisit them and come to a complete understanding that when taking the oath to the Constitution, we must also revisit the Declaration of Independence too. The Constitution most closely connects me as a military officer to the citizenry who have never served in the armed forces, including military spouses. From the Cato Institute Pocket Constitution, it says, quote, "The founders drafted an extraordinarily thoughtful plan of government, but it is up to us, to each generation, to preserve and protect it for ourselves and for the future generations. For the Constitution will live only if it is alive in the hearts and minds of the American people." So that leads us to the basics for this pre-flight checklist. The last on our checklist is understanding the importance of the words we're using and their definitions. Every word we use has a meaning, and the context within which the word is used is extremely important too. So much so that I updated my book to include a clavis or glossary so as to ensure anyone reading the words in it are extremely clear about the definitions and the context I'm using throughout. If you've been able to create in your life a high degree of time freedom, then you're a wealthy person. But what does that really mean? The traditional view on wealth is having a large retirement savings account or a high-priced house to live in and perhaps a collection of cash-flowing rental properties. Wealth is somehow connected to the amount of money we have. Money in quotes, by the way. I no longer believe that. It's a lie. Being wealthy, free, and successful has more to do about your time than anything else, especially more so than money, in quotes. Money is a part of it, but it's not the complete picture. Great relationships, whole health and wellness, and knowing why you're here on this little pale blue dot in the cosmos are all just as important too. For the sake of this InfoLetter series, here's the first bomb that we'll drop after we're in the air, the wealth bomb. This definition is written on the head of that weapon, and it reads, wealth is the ability to do what you want, with whom you want, where you want, for as long as you want, when you want, without consideration for the cost of the goods and services you're consuming or producing with your precious, limited time. We will dive further into wealth after we get this bomber off the ground. For now, let's kick the tires and light the fires and prepare for takeoff. Highway to the danger zone. Meeting our basic needs ensures we've got our mindset in a place to allow for us to add the unique value we bring to our own individual world. We must have clarity, conciseness in communication, and the drive to seek out problems and offer alternatives with our individual and unique imagination, knowledge, and experiences. There are no two individuals alike, and staying in that box the system has put you in will keep you from being wealthy and fully contributing all you've got to this pale blue dot. So get out of that box and do this. 1. The job market seems good on the surface, but will that job remain after you get hired? Will the purchasing power of the paycheck keep pace with the cost of living increases? Will the pay raises keep you happy? 2, do you value time more than your money savings or your savings more than your time? 3, how do you perceive value? 4, do you have for certain access to foodstuffs to maintain your family's sustenance, enabling you to stay as high on Maslow's hierarchy of needs as possible, employing your imagination to help find trade-offs to tough problems? And lastly, have you read the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States of America lately? These are the two documents most closely linking the military to we the people. This entire movement revolves around my oath of office to defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. It's personal to me. And for anyone saying those words, it should be personal to them too. If not in service or having never been in the military, have you read the Constitution lately or ever? It's a note from our founders directly to you. If not, I encourage you to take a look. The words we're using, they are intentional and they matter dearly. It's that simple. To your liberty, heck yeah. Postscript. My goal is this: make you a very wealthy person with all the liberty you desire and to get you to independence and autonomy and fast. My premium services are for cost because my time, like yours, is valuable and the blizzard of free resources contributes to the ambushes. When people pay, they're more likely to pay attention. Come and take it.